Right. Today we have a very special guest on the podcast. A very special guest. Someone I consider a very good friend of mine, someone I look up to, someone who is killing. When I say killing, I mean absolutely destroying the MMA game. It is the one and only Jake Fine.
Wow. What an intro.
How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I think the head of MMA media is the perfect place to start, man. You're killing it, bro.
Relax.
Nah, come on. You got to credit where credit is due, bro. Mate, I honestly think, what you've done with Aljamain Sterling's video channel is incredible. Like, you've really been able to give fans a proper insight into his life and into his character more than anything else, which is, I think, the hardest thing to do because as someone who is a videographer for someone of that stature, you like the importance obviously is the content, but you need to be able to get their character across.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, I try to I'm whenever I'm when we do the podcast or the training camp vlogs, I'm always trying to just extract what I think the fans want to see out of Aljo. So I'm trying to ask him questions that I think the fans will engage with on the podcast, or when we do the vlogs, I'm trying to capture what's happening and like from a perspective that's digestible, and then get good sound bites to explain it from the perspective of either Aljo, or if Aljo's like he's like training harder, he's cutting weight, I'll ask somebody else who knows exactly what he's going through, like another fighter like Marab or Ali Quinta. So luckily I have this like awesome group of guys who I can like extract content from, and it works well. And then Aljo's really good on camera too, so I think we make a good team.
You definitely make a good team. The team is, I mean, you can tell the energy from a mile off, even without meeting you guys. Like you can just tell the energy between all the Long Island guys and all the team. It's just a very tight knit family group. But
Mhm.
before we get into any of that, I think I want to know like where did it all start for you? Like when did you know that you wanted to be a filmmaker?
um when I was junior in high school, I think. um
What's junior in high school like compared to like how old's that? I
third
don't
year in
really
high school, I would
third
be
year in high school,
17.
like
17.
17.
Yeah.
17, yeah.
So 11th year.
Yeah.
Really
Oh
fun.
shit, yeah, because you don't like you go high school and then college straight away, don't you? Is it elementary, high school, college? Is that how it works in America?
Yeah, elementary, middle school, high school, college. So
Okay, okay, okay.
elementary is kindergarten through fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth is middle school, 9 through 12 is high school, and then 4 years of college.
Okay, okay, I got you. Sorry for interrupting the story. Right, so yeah, junior high school level.
11th year, or like my third year of high school, the year before I graduate, I started making like vlogs on YouTube, and I just started like I started shooting like time lapses. I started like messing around with different cameras, and just I started to find like it sounds cheesy, but like I started to find myself in it. Like I started to find a passion for it. Like I would shoot a time lapse, and then I would like go upload it to my computer and like speed through it and see like the clouds changing and like the sunset coming in, and I just thought it was really cool that I could, like, I thought I had like a little secret in my pocket. Like all these like kids at school were trying to like take cool pictures and stuff for Instagram, and I could do like videos and make really cool stuff, and it like kind of got me some attention. I In my senior year, I made like a hype video for the baseball team, and I like was hyping it up on my Instagram. And like actually one of the baseball players asked me to make it. So I wanted to make it, but one of the baseball players asked me before I could ask for the opportunity. So I was really excited, and I like poured myself into it, and then it got like 2,000 views, and everyone in the high school watched it, and like kids from other high schools watched it. And I thought it was like, it wasn't like that big of a deal, but to me it was like a cool
Well,
thing.
it's like the first big deal, wasn't it?
It was like people were complimenting my work for the first time, and it was like the guys on the baseball team who I thought were like cool, so like they thought it was cool. And I think it was just like another encouraging thing. So I would say it was around that time, like junior senior year, when I was like, this is what I do, like this is who I am. and I made a documentary about the baseball team after I made the hype video. So
Sick.
that was cool. I uh I premiered that at a theater. I rented out we have a theater in this town. I'm actually home in Chicago right now, but the suburb I live in, right outside of Chicago, we have Lake Theater, which is on Lake Street, and it's like everyone, it's like kind of like a landmark in our town. And I rented out a theater there to show my first documentary, and it was about the high school baseball team, and I sold it out, and I made like a couple $1,000s, and it was
That's sick.
that was the year after I graduated high school, and then I was like, I kind of started identifying as like a documentarian or like a documentary filmmaker, and I was like, I got like obsessed with like, I want to make documentaries. How do I do this for and make money doing it? And then that led to all this.
That's pretty amazing that you kind of like you started off doing like simple stuff, but you very quickly realized that you wanted to do very big projects. Like you went from, like I said, just doing small time lapses and speeding it up to knowing, right, fuck this, I want to do a documentary. Obviously, you had the hype video in between, but like the progress seemed to be fairly quick, almost as if like you found your feet with it very quickly, like it was meant to be, if you like.
Yeah, I like I when I like do something, I get like obsessed with it usually, or like at least when I was younger, if I thought something, like I would like almost become like fanatical about like these little interests I would have, and just take go really deep. And I always thought it would be cool to like, like take it to the highest level I could. So I was like, it was like little vlogs, and then I wanted to do daily vlogging, so I did that for like 20 days. And then I was like, the next logical step is a documentary. And then I was like, it would be cool if I sold out a theater. Like it was just like these, how do I take it? How do I make it like cool? Like how I think I was low key like attention seeking or something. Like I thought it would like bring me like love or something. And but it actually turned out to just be like really good professional like experience, like selling out a theater. I could do that anytime I want now. Like I know how to do that. I almost want to
Was
be a band just to do it, like.
Yeah, I believe you can, bro. And I'm sure you will. But so growing up in school, were you kind of not maybe a part of the cool ones? Were you kind of always either seeking respect, or were you always the type of person that always wanted people to see and be like, "Oh, this guy's doing something"?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I was the same, bro. I was literally the same. I literally only had like a few good mates, and I was always like just outside of all the cool guys. And like, I think just naturally, I think even as a guy, I think it's more of a guy thing than it is for a girl thing. Like you want to have the respect of people. You want to be able to be like a stand-up guy. You want to be able to have people look at you and go, "Do you know what? This guy knows his shit. He's a cool guy." It doesn't. It just comes from a self-respect thing, I think.
Yeah, I think like I was never like in middle school, like, like I was like a fat little kid, so like people were like kind of mean to me, and I like probably internalized that. And then going into high school, I lost some weight, and I was like better looking, but I still was like a weirdo. I didn't like know how to act, I think. So I think like, but I was really good at making friends at the same time, but like for some reason, like the cool kids like didn't like me, or like didn't want to have me in their circle. But I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't really care too much. I just was like, I think there's a thing where you like want to impress people. You want like people to be impressed with you, and like ask you about what you're doing, and like you want to feel like what you're doing is cool, I guess. Especially when you're younger.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
there was
I
that.
think, like you said, it's a more of a bigger impact when you're younger because you always want to, like, I don't know, you always feel like everyone's got someone they look up to. For example, like you always want to kind of be someone like the person that you look up to, or you always want to just be able to. For me, at least, I feel like I can resonate with that a little bit because do you know what I think is also crazy is with people in school, like you were growing up with, like a lot of the weird kids or a lot of the quiet kids. Like when you grow up, you realize that all the quiet, weird ones are normally the most creative, the most successful people because of the environment they were growing up in, because they maybe didn't have the best upbringing at home, or maybe they were bullied at school, or maybe they just weren't confident. Like I said, they might have been overweight growing up, so they was very just in their own selves. But when they grow up and you grow up as a person, you mature and you realize how that shit doesn't matter when you grow up,
Yeah,
and
it's
you
like
actually manage to channel in the energy you have.
yeah, you realize how stupid like that stuff you cared about back in the day was. Now it's like we had this like every year at Thanksgiving, like when people come home from college, there's like a bar all the kids go to. So like I see them there and I'm just like, "Oh, we're all just like we're about to graduate college. We're all grown-ups now. Like we're a lot of you are about to start working jobs. Some of you are going into graduate school. Like we're not playing sports anymore." I don't know, it just you realize like everyone like all that stuff was based on like insecurity when you're younger, and like it doesn't matter. Like now I don't really care what anyone thinks about. Like a lot of people are impressed with what I do, but I don't really it doesn't like fill me up internally to
It
like
doesn't define you either.
I don't really care like what people I want to like what I'm doing and like feel like what I'm doing is cool to me. Like I want to cherish the experiences for myself. I don't want to feel like I'm doing it to impress people because I don't care what anyone. I mean, I think it's impressive, but I don't really care. You know?
And it's also it's good when you keep yourself in check, and there's a fine balance of like I was saying to you on text, like where I get a bit self conscious of being very wary of like knowing that you're doing sick things and wanting to share your wins, but also being able to keep yourself in check, that you don't let it all get to your head, and especially when you have good people around you, then that also helps because everyone kind of keeps each other in check. No one lets their ego get ahead of themselves, and
Yeah.
it's good.
I think.
I
Yeah.
think.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, when you're surrounded by guys like Aljo and Marab, you don't feel like you're that cool. You know, like they're the cool ones. You know, they're like I.
Yeah.
It's not like you feel bad about yourself, but it's just like you're not the star of the show. They are, and they're humble. So how are you gonna act? How are you gonna act like you're hot stuff? You know?
Yeah. It's hard to beat like top caliber UFC fighters. Like they fucking like fight me. I think just generally and just generally with fighters, like it's hard to impress anyone that's not a fighter. Like because fighters, mate, they're just the toughest cunts going. Like just to be able to fight professionally, the
Mhm.
sacrifices you've got to make just to get to the UFC is like whoa.
Right.
You've been through hell and back, mate.
Yeah, they're the most like badass athletes on the planet, and like
Yeah.
they they're like the apex predators of our species as a human. Like no other like they're like they could beat anyone's ass. Like even that's bigger than them probably, unless it's like another fighter. So it's just like you're just humble. You're just humbled by seeing them live their life and train as hard as they do and cut weight and beat other, Olympians or other number one contenders or whatever it is. Like you're humbled by seeing them do what they do.
I think what's also very impressive with you is you understood. So I'll let you tell the story of how did you get to working with Aljo?
Um, I was working with another athlete, John Beneducci, who trains in New York, like at Sarah's and Law MMA, and I was working on a documentary for him, but that's a long process, and that's actually about to come out, like this summer. But I didn't even know who Aljo was when I started working for him, but I was going to law to film this guy, John Beneducci, and he was like, "Oh, that's Aljo. He's gonna fight for the bantamweight title." And I wasn't too like familiar with everybody in the UFC like I am now, so I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like he's gonna be a UFC champion if he wins this next fight." And then he ended up winning by DQ, and I was like, there was like a downtime where he was just like podcasting because he got surgery, and I started watching his podcast, and I messaged him, and I was like, "Hey, I work for this guy John that you know. I edit his podcast. Here's some clips I've done. Like, do you need anybody to edit your podcast? I don't know what your deal is, but I would love to help you, and I'll help you for free. And then he like messaged back and he was like, yeah, I'm actually looking for somebody. Um, like, I'll hit you up, something like that. A few weeks go by. I was like, hey, did you get a chance to look at those clips I sent? And he was like, honestly, no, I haven't. And I was like, Roger, like, heard. And then I just didn't want to bother him. So I waited like maybe like another month or two. And then I was like, hey, just swinging back to see if you need anybody to edit your podcast still. I'm still happy to do it. And he responded again. And I was like on a vacation when he responded. I was on the fishing trip with my brother and cousins and my grandpa. Or my brother's my cousin and my grandpa. And I was like, "Oh my god, like he's responding." And he basically said like, "Okay, I'm gonna next time I record a podcast, I'll send it to you," because I was living in Chicago still. So he's like, I'll WeTransfer it to you, and then you can edit it, and then log into my YouTube and post it as a manager, and then somebody else will come in and do the thumbnails." So he had this whole like team, kind of where like Aljo would edit it, then he would upload it. Dylan would, who's the graphic designer, would upload a thumbnail, and then Cody would do like the data, like the metadata stuff. And we did that for a while, like probably like 6 months, and then I was still in Chicago. Like I was doing my own TikToks about MMA. Like I was becoming a big fan at this point. I had clients in the city that I was working with. So I had this background of like making vlogs or like making documentaries. So I was like, hey, I'm a pretty experienced videographer. If you need somebody to like vlog your camp for you, I think this is a pretty historic fight. This was leading up to the second Peter Yan fight. If you need anybody, I'll come up to New York. I've been there a bunch of times for John Beneducci. I have family there. I have a place to stay. It won't cost you a dime. I just want the experience. And actually, to go back a bit, he had offered to pay me. He was like, "Hey, I'm looking to like really take the podcast seriously. I'm looking I'm looking for like a serious editor. Like, I want to start paying people. What do you charge? Like, what are your rates? I'm like shopping the market." And I don't looking back at it, I don't think he was shopping the market. I just think he was trying to keep me competitive. But just knowing him now. But yeah, but or maybe he was talking to one other guy, but I was like, and he actually got me, but I thought about it really hard like all weekend because like I didn't want to mess up this opportunity. I didn't want to like say a price that was too high and then have him go with some other guy. So I said, "Yo, I'll just do it for free. Like I want to keep working with you. I don't want money to get in the way. Like I want to get into the MMA content scene. Like, I'm being transparent. Like I want to get a bigger opportunity out of this. So let's just keep doing this, and then hopefully something cool will come down the line from it." So then 3 weeks after that, we were on a phone call. He was saying he was telling me something that might happen with the podcast, blah blah blah. And I was like, hey, actually, if you need somebody to come up for the Yan camp for the rematch, I'll come do it. Like I'll film your vlogs for you. Whatever you want to do. I want to film a documentary. Um, and he's like, okay, cool. I'll be in touch. That I was thinking I need somebody for that. And then should I talk about the Taekwondo story because that kind of ties into it.
Yeah, tie in. Yeah, yeah. Go on then. Go on
So
then.
so while all this is going on, I was doing Taekwondo, and I had just gotten my yellow belt, which is like the first belt you get after your white belt, and I was getting ready for a tournament. So I'm sparring this guy in my class, and we did a match, and then we were about to do a second like match in sparring, and I didn't have a cup on. He kicks me in the nuts. My left testicle ruptured. I had to get surgery to like repair it, and That's where I got the name Taekwondo guy. But like 3 weeks after my surgery, this was probably a month and a half after I talked to Aljo. Like I talked to him right at the beginning of his camp. Now we're about 3 weeks out from the second Yan fight, or maybe a month out, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come up? I thought about it. Like, can you come up to New York to do these vlogs?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I tell my dad. Um, I pack my car, and like 2 days later, I drive to New York, and I start working for him like 4 days after that. After he called me, I'm with him 4 days later, and we start making vlogs, and they were doing really well. Like his podcast at the time was getting about 1,000 views per episode, and then the vlogs were doing like 7 to 10,000 views per episode, and and we were like on our way some to pick up his suit from the tailor, and he was saying that he was like, I wish we could do this more. Like I wish I could have someone full time making vlogs. And I was like, off a whim, I had no plans for this. I was like, if you want, you could hire me full time, and I'll do it. Like I'll follow you wherever you go. And he was like, hmm, yeah. After this fight, I'm gonna have some money. Let's do it. And it was just like that. Like we that he hired me right there. So
That's sick.
that like that that time where he offered to pay me for the podcast, and I said no, I'll do it for free. I just want to get a cooler opportunity later. That paid off because now he's started paying me. He moved me out to New York, and I was with him full time. And then I started like, that's when stuff really started taking off, and I started like putting my all into his channel. And that was about 14 months ago.
And the rest is history.
And now we're the number one YouTube channel in MMA.
Mate, it's that just is a testament to how good you are and how smart you are. I very much go by the if you don't ask, you don't get. That is like something I fucking live by. Like if you don't ask, you're never ever gonna get anywhere. And just by reaching out, just by DMing, just on the off chance that he might see a DM, because mate, there was a good chance that he was never gonna see it and never get a reply.
Mhm.
But just on the off chance that you did and you kept on poking back, even if it was a couple times, like just that persistency and the willingness to work for free is massive. I think a lot of people in our generation don't understand how important it is to be able to say to someone, look, I'm willing to work for free. Because obviously, everyone wants to get paid. But sometimes you need to put yourself in a position where you need to stand out and you need to be willing to put in the hours to prove your worth. Because sometimes, like, it's a gamble when you don't know when someone doesn't know you and you're saying, I can do all this, I can do all that. Oh, but you got to pay me this price first before I do it. It's like, well, there's a lot of trust that needs to be built there just from that. Whereas if you're coming in saying, look, listen, I'm just looking to work. I just want the experience. I just want to just
Yeah.
like do what's best for you and it's best for me because you're still getting there's still even though you were working for free in those months, you were still getting so much value out of the content you were making and the experiences you were having.
Oh
So
yeah.
even though there may not be a materialistic price on it, you're still getting a huge value out of it. But people don't realize that and see that. So for you to be able to recognize that so early on in your professional career and I mean, look how well it's paid off, bro. You're literally the main man in MMA. I keep on saying it, but it's true. Like you're like
So,
for someone like me, I'm not saying this because I'm on a podcast with you now. Like I've said this to you since I known you, mate. Like
yeah.
it's just like, especially when I got to know you, you're just a proper solid dude. You work hard, you put everything in, and there's no wonder why things are going so well for you, bro. Because you're a grafter.
Yo, thank you. I appreciate that. I think people like you and I are both in our early 20s, and I think what a lot of people like the typical life path is like I'm 22, you're 23. By this time, usually people are graduated from university and they're getting their first job from their degree, and they're like, their career starts like that. They buy a house, they get married. But I think a lot of people are focused on like earning. Like there's this guy Alex Hormozy who is like he's like kind of like a Warren Buffett type of guy. He like invests in companies and helps grow them. And he's like in his early 30s, and he's worth like $200 million. He's exploding on social media now because he gives like great advice. And one of the things he says is like people in their 20s are too focused on earning when they should be focused on learning. And the price of the knowledge, like he has this quote where it's like, if you want to make $1 million a year and you only make 50, the price of the knowledge you don't have costs you $950,000 a year. So, and then he'll say, like, in your 20s, you should just be focused on completely only taking opportunities that level up your knowledge and skill set, so that later on in life you'll earn way more than if you start focusing on earning in your 20s, but then you neglect adding skills to your basket. And then, the price of the knowledge you don't have is what's costing you the money you're not making, if that makes sense. So, like, I
100%.
I always thought like that before, I was working. Even before this, before I heard that quote, I always thought that way. Like, if my goal is to do some cool project with Aljo, and I've got him in my network now, well, what are the things I have to leverage against other people that might want a similar opportunity? It's like, well, I live at my parents' house. I don't pay any bills, so I can work for free. It's just about how much effort I want to put in. He has leverage too. He can, he's the UFC champion. He can probably get anybody he wants to work for him, especially any 22-year-old guy with not any real professional experience. So it's like, you got to, like, understand the opportunity that's at stake and then just make the right moves to get what you want. And there's only so many UFC champions. So it's like, I knew what I had to do and I was willing to do it. But other people, maybe they have a house that they have to pay off, or they've got all these other clients that are paying them, then they have a kid or something, and they can't, like, spend time working for free for somebody. It's like, well, I had this ability to leverage, that I could work for free, and I used it, and then I think that paid off obviously a lot. And even
Yeah,
still,
definitely.
I could go get a job that pays me, like way. I'm not. It's not like I'm making bad money, but I could go get a regular videographer job somewhere for, like, a real estate agent that's going to pay me way more. This actually, like, has kind of been offered to me, but I would rather just focus on this because I know this is going to teach me way more and take me around the world. And
And it's more of a passion project. Like it's more something you love and you enjoy to do. And I think what's crazy is how many people decide to say, "Oh, your 20s are your best years. You're just going to have as much fun as possible." And to a certain degree, I obviously agree. You want to have as much fun, but like to just say that, "Oh, well, you're never going to get your 20s back, so let's not work as hard. Let's just chill out. Let's just like have fun, really, and just not really focus on anything else," which doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest. Like I hear so many people talk about how your 20s are your best years. You're never going to get your 20s, but I mean, I think that sounds so depressing to say that your 20s are going to be your best years. Like, I would much rather work my ass off right now in all of my 20s to then set me up to have a much more enjoyable future where I can retire at a younger age, or where I've set myself up so that when I'm 30, I'm making good money. Like, if you're not starting until your late 20s, 30s, everyone else has probably got a 10-year advantage over you from actually starting and actually putting their time in. Because mate, you know better than I do. Like this shit takes fucking years to get good at. It takes years to get to where you want to get to. It's not something that happens overnight. It's
like,
years of progress.
as an editor
And
stuff is what you're referring to.
yeah, yeah, but in terms of anything, whether that's learning how to edit, whether that's learning how to be a videographer, whether that's putting content out there, whether that's building a channel, like it all just takes time. Building a network, that's also something that people neglect so much. People neglect, like you were saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. Like being able to have a conversation or have the confidence to just speak to someone is so massive. It's such a small thing. It's just a conversation. The worst you're ever going to get told is no. So if you don't go and have that conversation, you're not losing out on anything. But people they just have this thing that just stops them from being able to do that. And you had that guy. For me, it was Casey Neistat. From a very young age, Casey
That's
Neistat was
what
someone that
inspired me to start vlogging.
yeah, mate, he's just, I mean, what he stands for. I mean, I've got the tattoo from one of his, from his Nike advert. Do you remember the Fuel Band
Dude, I can't
advert that
believe
he did
we haven't
where,
talked about this before. He's, like, the main reason I started making videos. That's so
mate, it's sick. I
that's
didn't know that.
yeah, bro. He's, like, the guy. I
Yeah,
watch every video he makes. Yeah.
he's unbelievable because he works his socks off. He does unbelievable hours, but the one thing that he prioritizes above anything else is his creativity. He doesn't care about views. He doesn't care about what it does. He just wants to make content that he enjoys. And the perfect example was that video that I got the tattoo for.
Mhm.
He got paid a fair decent amount of money from Nike to make an advert for his fuel band, and he could have very easily done a very corporate video, but he decided to spend that money to travel to as many places in the world as he could in a short amount of time. I think he traveled like to 12 countries in like 6 or 7 days, and the whole video was just him talking about how you got to push yourself, how you got to step out of your comfort zone. It was filled with motivational quotes, and he got this tattoo because he felt like he wasn't doing enough, so he wanted a daily reminder of himself that he could see that there's always more to do. And it just resonated with me, like seeing that at a young age, being from a small island as well. I mean, I don't know what it's like growing up in Chicago, but growing up in Malta for me was a small place. Everyone loves being in that place, not really, venturing out and doing anything too challenging. Everyone likes their place in society over there. Everyone likes it. But like, I just needed something to say, right, fuck it, you need to go. And yeah, it's what do you think? Why do you think it is people like? What do you think is the reason behind people not really seeing what we see or wanting to build a future for themselves at a young age?
I don't know. I think a lot of people like I had this. Have you seen the movie Finding Nemo?
Yes, of
Yeah, of
course.
course you have.
How am I? Have I never? It's like one of the most popular child movies
Right.
of our generation.
Yeah. So that scene where like they get with the turtles and they get into this like jet stream in the ocean that's like all the turtles are just like kind of in and it's just taking them somewhere really quickly and they're all just
Yeah.
like going with the flow. And to them it seems like super normal, but if you're outside of that, you can see how it's completely it's like a separate thing from the rest of the ocean.
Hmm.
And like I think that's kind of like similar to like the way a lot of people approach life is like there's kind of this ingrained like path that everyone's like it's like a river almost that's you're just being taken down, and it's like if you moved like a few feet to the left and like took a couple bumps and bruises you could see it for what it is, but a lot of people don't like even think to because they're just in it and they're
Yeah.
used to that speed and that motion of going in a certain direction. And I just think maybe they're never exposed to like somebody who tells them otherwise. I mean, most people's parents had parents who followed the same path and then their parents follow that path and then that's the path they're taught in school. And it's no and if you question it, like I remember when I started to question it and I said I didn't want to go to college, a lot of my friends in high school were like telling me I was stupid or like that it's stupid to not have a plan B. And like they would like yell at me like they like cared so much for my like they cared so much that I like didn't skip out on school because they thought I was gonna like be a failure or something. And but no one they didn't have a Casey Neistat to like I think like give them the other perspective and show how successful you can be without it. So I think it's that. But if you just like it's like that thing if you someone tells it to you and then you just look at it and like see it for what it is, then you can kind of break out of it.
People are afraid of that challenge, aren't they? My good friend Tom, one of my best friends, Tom. We used to watch a good film. Like, have you ever seen A Bronx Tale?
No.
Oh, bro, what do you mean you've never seen
It's
A
weird.
Bronx Tale?
I don't watch
You're
that.
not into your movies?
No, not really. I watch mostly like documentaries and like YouTube is how I get a lot.
Right, I'll just before I get to my point. Have you seen Goodfellas?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say, but mate, for me, mafia films are like my favorite films. Like,
me
I
too.
love mafia films. So in a Bronx Tale, there's a scene with I'm terrible with remembering character names, right? But the main mafia guy in the Bronx Tale. Everyone, if you've seen it, you know who I'm on about. He has this speech with the little kid, and he says one of the worst things is wasted talent, and I think it is so crazy how many people I've come across in life so far, even though I'm only 23, but how many people I've come across who have the potential to do so much with their knowledge or with their creativity or with whatever they have going on, but they never I can't speak today. They never challenge themselves enough to push that person, that side of that person to come out, like, and it is literally wasted talent. Like, I don't get how people don't tap into these things because everyone just sees a safe route. Everyone just thinks, oh, I mean, I guess it's the same in America, but I feel like in England, people are just accustomed to thinking, whether that's because of the system, whether it's because of their upbringing, probably more so the system than the upbringing, but also the same stuff because our parents' generation were definitely more systemic, I'd say, because they only had what was given to them. But people just don't seem to realize that there's so many opportunities out there, and just because you make 30, 40 grand in a year doesn't, like, that to me, just settling for that, be like, oh yeah, well, do you know what, if I get this job, I could start at 30 grand, but if I work my ass off in like 5, 10 years, I could maybe get to 40, 45 grand, get a manager role. It's like, I just don't understand it. I don't understand people that think like that, and I just think it's crazy that there are so many of them out there.
I mean, you do like need those people to run a society.
Mm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I used to feel that way. I used to think like, how is everyone so stupid that they can't see this the way I see it? But like now I realize like there's nothing wrong with just like going to school, getting a job, and like you know the main thing in your life is your family and your home and going on vacations once in a while. Like like it's not bad at all. Like sometimes I feel like that would just be like nice, but
Yeah.
I still haven't even like, I'm talking like as if I've done something super crazy, but like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think it's like some people who want to do something cool, they feel like they can't,
Yeah, I
you
know what you mean.
for whatever reason. But I think that's becoming less common. I think it's actually kind of swinging in the other direction now, where like a lot more
Our
people.
our generation, definitely. You've seen a lot of people stepping out of the box.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see that to the point where it's almost like, yo, not everyone can be an influencer. Like you got a lot of someone should go be an engineer or a doctor.
There's a
Um,
lot of people doing podcasts, to be fair.
yeah, I can't like sit in a school environment and like
No.
focus like that. It was
I've never been
not fun.
academic, to be honest. I've never been someone that can just sit down and study books. Like, it's just
No,
not me.
I can only do stuff that's like extremely exciting to me, or like I feel like there's a real reason to be doing it, that like that where it's like going to get me closer to where I want in life. So otherwise it's hard for me to focus, like the classes
What?
I did well in were the ones I liked. The ones I didn't like, I just didn't even care to try.
Yeah. That was like, what was your favorite your subjects in school?
I always liked like history, and then I had a creative film class that I really liked, where like that's where I learned how to edit actually, or like that was my first experience editing. So like that I got into, like that was a class where I would like leave during lunch to go back to that class to work on my projects because it was so
Sick.
fun to me.
What were you learning in history in America? Is it just American history?
We had world history freshman year, and we had American history junior year. I took a
See,
Chicago history class. That was cool.
is
Um,
Chicago filled with history? I don't know what. I don't really know a lot about Chicago.
yeah, it's a pretty. I mean, I think New York, Chicago, and LA all probably have like some
Similar.
nice, great history. I mean,
Yeah.
Chicago has like Al Capone as a part of our history. There's like a lot of stories, a lot of which I can't remember, but I remember it being very interesting when I was taking the class. Um,
I was the exact same. Like, in my school in Malta, I found history so fascinating.
yeah.
Like, especially Malta. Like, Malta is just filled with history for like thousands of years. So I just found it so interesting to listen to it. But I was just always bad at, like, then when it came to the exam, fucking remembering all the dates, and it's just too much to, at that age, at least. Like, I can ramble off fucking mad facts now from podcasts I've listened to or stuff I've researched. But yeah, I loved history. For me, the one subject that I was like, I loved at school, the only one, it was PE, like physical education.
Mm,
Have you got
yeah.
like that? But
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that was like for me, like the PE teachers were always the best teachers. Like they were always the soundest ones you could just chat to, you could just make jokes with. Like you get to play football, get to just go and do athletics. You have to like sometimes like I was never good at athletics, but to be able to just like skip school for like half the day or for the full day to just go and compete at athletics, like yes, I just loved it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then when I was at, so the way it works in England, you have it's called high school, but it's not really like, it's not like high school. Like so, it's you have like primary school, then secondary school. Secondary school is kind of like high school, and then you finish secondary school at like 16, and then you've got college between 16 and 18. So sixth form is another word for it.
Okay.
And then you have university, which is your version of college. But so when I came to Leeds the first time, I dropped out of like sixth form college in Malta. So when I first came to Leeds, I was doing college. Sounds confusing, but sixth form, like what you meant to do basically between 16 and 18, I was doing when I was 18 in Leeds for the first 2 years. And I did film, media, and English language. And I fucking loved learning about like Premiere Pro and learning how to put stuff together. And that was like the first time I was, because when I was in Malta when I was growing up, I was always doing stuff. Like my mom always put me onto like being a runner on a TV show or just helping out, like just like whether it was just something as simple as like miking people up on set or doing a production sheet run, or like if someone's filming, I'm just like letting them know you've got 2 minutes to wrap up, like just like little stuff like that was like the first introduction I had into doing this sort of stuff. And then when I did media and film, I loved learning about Premiere Pro. I loved learning about the process of films and media, and I loved like it was like the first time where like when someone breaks down stuff to you, like with I think what was one of the films that we had to break down? I can't remember, but it was like the first time where like we'd sit and watch a scene and then you'd analyze it and you'd realize the importance of every single thing you see in that shot and why everything has a meaning. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's pretty sick. And like as soon as I learned that, like very quickly, like I am now, no matter what I watch, you analyze it in a different way. You realize stuff and you see stuff that you might not want to see if you are as critical. But yeah, I just partied so much in that first year and I hated the teacher. So I ended up dropping, like I got 2 E's in film and media.
Wait,
um what would you say?
that means you failed like in E.
No, so I didn't quite fail, but they didn't let me back on for the second year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Party.
But like it was shit though, because the stuff that you were learning was like I don't know if they've got, I'm sure they have the version of it in America, but in England it's called Ofcom. So it's like the regulatory uh, government for TV and film, if you like. So if you're like broadcasting stuff on the BBC or ITV, you've got to make sure it's in the guidelines of Ofcom. So you've got to make sure like there's like certain things you got to hit for
Hmm.
TV. But that didn't interest me because that wasn't like I was like, oh well,
Yeah.
I love film, I love media, but that's just like that's only one specific part that you're trying to tell me that I need to go down. That's I don't want to have any restrictions on making content. You want to be as creative as possible. So it never was like, oh, but you can take stuff from that. You can still learn
Yeah.
all that.
I mean, the principles of making a good, engaging video, I think, are the same across all the mediums. Like storytelling is storytelling, whether it's on YouTube or TV or a film screen. But like, I think once you learn like like everything in a shot is either has to mean something or it's taking away from the shot. You realize that like applies to all messaging in the world. Like even when you're reading a book, like every detail has to mean something. If it doesn't mean something, it shouldn't be there. It's taking away. And that's, I mean, even in the videos we shoot, I try to think about that. Like how does this Aljo's talking about weight cutting, so what shot am I gonna put over that sound bite to to paint the full picture of what he's talking about and making it make sense visually for the viewer. And then I mean, yeah, you kind of just get good at that over time, and then I don't know, I guess people like that stuff.
How amazing is it to be a part of something so raw and so important for Aljo's career, to literally be a part of the team and be firsthand for the most successful. Been the most successful part of his career.
Um, it's been really cool. It's taught me a lot. Um, but I think, it's been cool for me because I mean I feel very like fortunate to I feel like, I feel like I'm good at what I do, and there was definitely like strategies involved in getting to this position. And and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of where what I'll be able to create. But I do feel like Aljo, like I was chosen, at the same time, like I was saved almost. And then for him to be so successful, and for me to see what success looks like at the highest level of probably the hardest endeavor in the world is very like it teaches me a lot, and it's been a blessing to capture. Like all the footage we have is on hard drives, and it's like, one day it's going to be used for some greater story, I think. So just being alongside it, I mean, it feels like I'm experiencing a once in a lifetime thing that only a few handful of people will ever get to see with their own two eyes. And then, like, sometimes I think, well, this might be the biggest thing I ever do. Like this might be the most like famous thing I ever capture, like, or the most coolest thing I ever capture. Like sometimes I think that, um,
Well, you have to live in the moment, don't you?
yeah. I mean, you're
You have
forced
to live
to
in the
when you're
moment.
capturing. That's the thing I like about
Yeah.
filming is you have to be present. Like you like and you kind of always got to be filming. Like you don't want to miss anything good, so you're always just rolling the camera and you're looking at what you're filming and you're framing it, and it just forces you to be like right there. There's no like distractions, or there's your mind isn't wandering. It's almost like when you're sparring. It's like when someone's trying to kick you, there's nothing in the world you're thinking about besides not getting kicked, and hopefully landing a punch or a kick or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. It's like when I'm filming him, I'm literally looking at it, I'm focusing it, I'm thinking about how I'm going to edit it, and you're very present, which is rare in this day and age.
It's like a brotherhood, isn't it? When you're that close, and I'm sure the weight cuts have brought you closer as friends as well. And like it's like it really people that don't or haven't had the opportunity or know people that might be fighters. Like if you know a fighter or you've been a part of camps, like you can understand it. But to people that don't, like when you share that much intimacy with someone over something like that, no matter at whatever level it is, you could be cutting weight for an amateur fight or you could be cutting weight for a world title fight for the UFC. I just think that it just brings a togetherness like nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, I think like seeing what the weight cut does to the guys, it's like it just makes you respect them even more. Like way more than you possibly could by just being a fan and watching it on TV. Um, because it's like that's really the hardest thing they do. Like that's probably the hardest thing anyone does to themselves on purpose. Like I can't think of one other thing that would like be more torturous that you could do to yourself. Like starve and dehydrate yourself to the brink of death. Get rid of all the nutrients in your body. There's no body fat, there's no water, and if you like if you keep going, you'll die like very quickly. Like, if you don't drink water soon, you're gonna die. It's like, and they do that to themselves. Like they voluntarily do it. So it's like, how do you
Could
not?
go to war the next day,
Yeah,
literally.
and it's like nothing I do is that hard. So it's almost tough into my mind by watching what they go through and making me realize like, it's given me a perspective that nothing is really that hard for me. Like anything I thought I was doing that's hard, it's
100%.
not that hard, because I'm not doing that, I'm not volunteering to do that.
I couldn't agree more. I think my experience when I moved to Liverpool and I lived in the gym with pro fighters, with like high level pro fighters, it does harden your mind because you just think, wow, I used to complain about the stupidest shit ever.
Yeah.
And now like I just don't even fucking bother because you just like even aside like when you just do workouts as well, even when you're doing workouts, you think, fucking hell, I was a bitch before. I could definitely push myself a lot more.
Literally, I mean, like even like zooming out more, it makes me think like a lot of the stuff people go through like with mental health today is like it's it's like they're not like living, they're not going through anything really hard in life, but they're just depressed. Like I mean, I don't want to diminish what anyone's going through, but like you hear the classic story of like someone's got a great job, great apartment, great relationship, you know, good relationship with their family, but they still feel depressed. And I think a lot of that, like when you might even like I might have even felt that way before. Like I might have felt like I was like depressed or had like ADHD or something, but like then you see that and you're just like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm good in life, you know. I I don't need I don't need to complain about anything. You know, it's a
No.
perspective shift. And I'm sure
Yeah.
going through it, I'm sure for them going through that, everything else in life is not easy, but like it probably like hardens you to where like stuff bothers you less, you know?
100%. And again, that just comes with experiences where you've had to challenge yourself and where you've had to deep into yourself or you've had to really step out of your comfort zone. Yeah, there's a obviously, like I said, you can never diminish how people feel and what makes them depressed, but there are a lot of people that, like, especially I feel like they are definitely trying to soften people up and like make men, especially. I mean, men's mental health is the worst out of all of them, and it's people pretend to care about men, but in reality, they don't really. I mean, men have got the highest suicide rates in the world, more than anyone else. But I just think I don't know. It's a difficult one because, like you said, you can't. Everyone's challenge is their own challenge, isn't it? Like in their own head, it's the worst thing possible. But at the same time, it takes an understanding of gratefulness at the same time, knowing wow, like I may have it shit, but understanding that life just does get that way sometimes. Like life is never gonna be straight, perfect, everything going your way. And I think there's a power that comes with knowing that everyone has their good and their bad times, and just being able to kind of have that hope and also have a good circle around you. That's another big thing. You need to have a strong circle around you to kind of know that you can go and speak to someone if you need to, or if you just need that little push from your friend to say, "Oh, mate, don't worry, it's going to be okay," and then obviously vice versa. Yeah, it's fucked, mate. We live in there's so many things to be grateful for our generation, but there's a lot of negatives that come with it at the same time.
I mean, you know, I think, you know, obviously I'm not a doctor, but it's like I had an aunt who had cancer, like terminal cancer for 9 years, and she was like known for never complaining.
9 years.
Yeah. She had
Fuck.
cancer and chemotherapy for 9 years. You know, she had to put her body through all this, you know, this chemo. She had to go on steroids, like to not like testosterone, but like other kinds of steroids to like, you know, help her body like strengthen. And she lost her hair and she was in a lot of pain, but she literally didn't retire until like 6 months before she died because
Wow.
her job made her retire. She never complained about it once. She was always very happy and like asking about other people. And so I saw that that was like right when I was like, you know, it was from the time I was a little kid up until I was like 18 when she passed away. And what I learned from that is like you can always have a positive attitude. Like you can always kind of choose how you look at life. Like she could have easily been miserable and sitting in despair because of her condition, but like no, she just made herself, she like chose to be positive about it. She chose to be grateful that her family was around her. She went on trips and, you know, she would gather our family for these family gatherings and just be happy to have everybody there and go to work and do her job well and like still lived with this purpose. And it was like, yeah, I'm gonna live like that for my whole life. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna choose that attitude for my whole life. And then, you know, that's obviously like seeing the fighters how they live, like the suffering they go through in a camp and then a weight cut. ingrains that lesson even more because it's like they're literally sitting there and I already explained it, but it just I think the point is you can always like take step towards choosing a better outlook on life. I mean, who am I to even say that?
100%.
But it's just that's how I live.
I agree. I agree. I want to know Jake Fine, formerly known as Taekwondo Guy. Taekwondo Jake, actually. It was Taekwondo. Was it Taekwondo Guy or
It was
Taekwondo Jake?
Taekwondo Guy Media.
Oh shit! Yeah, it
That was
was.
my Instagram and
Yeah, it
TikTok.
was. And well, you're not even a year as Jake Fine because when I met you, you were Taekwondo Guy.
I changed it
Or
like
you must be coming up to a year.
I changed it in December to Jake Fine Media.
Jake Fine
It was
Media.
like right
Definitely a lot
before.
more professional. Yeah, it's a lot cleaner and professional. Jake Fine Media.
Yeah, and I think it's like people know I'm Jake Fine, so it's like it just was easier for like branding, I guess.
It works. Well, are you gonna scrap someone? I wanna see these Taekwondo kicks come out with a few punches, a bit of jiu-jitsu, a bit of wrestling,
I've
some
been
celebrity MMA.
I've been hitting pads and like learning some technique and just training my body. I think it would be cool to do like one amateur fight, like just
Yeah,
train for that.
yeah.
And just like, I almost as like I look at it as like training for a marathon, like a physical challenge. So that's something I'm striving towards
In the
the
future.
near to mid length future,
Yeah.
next year or two.
No rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I just need to get my fucking back sorted, but I keep saying this, but I'm definitely not doing enough. Like I need to be doing more, but it's not an easy thing to overcome. But I think over the last few years, I've really got to understand my body more, and I've got to understand the things that you need to do and how to train smarter. But I think for me, I'm smart enough to know that to get to a professional level, I don't have necessarily the dedication to do it for years and years and years and years. I don't want to. Like, I have enough respect for the guys. I know what it's like. I know the damage it does. You guys, you can do that. I love you. I respect you. But
Yeah.
I think the route I want to go down is like, number one, I do it for myself because I enjoy it and I love it, of course. But I do it to understand the fight game. I do it to understand the fighters. I do it to understand the training because I think it is important to have that knowledge, or even if you don't do it for long or you don't have that much experience, the fact that you've done it gives you a new level of respect from the guys, which I think is massive.
Mhm.
And to me, the out of anyone in the fight game, the people that you want to have the respect, the people you want to have respect for the most. No, am I saying that right? The way, yeah, I want the fighters to respect me more than anyone else in the fight
Yeah.
game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like out of anyone, they're the most important guys that you want to impress. So that's like the main thing for me. And I think, have you? Well, you might not have heard of him. Have you heard of Paul? What the fuck's his name now? The English comedian. How do I get his name? Scouse, not Jake Paul. How am I blanking? This is embarrassing that I'm blanking him. But he's fighting this guy called Jake Quickenden. But he's doing. Have you heard of Octagon MMA? They're a European promotion.
No, I haven't.
No, so they're a pretty. They're getting pretty big in Europe. They've just actually started. They're kind of doing like an Ultimate Fighter type deal, but they're
Okay.
doing it as like Team England versus Team Ireland, and they've only having a few guys on there. But they're doing some really cool stuff, and they're basically doing kind of like a celebrity MMA fight, but they're doing it properly. Like it's really nice to see that they're not going down the shit YouTuber boxing route that most people. I mean, there's some like Jake Paul. You've got to respect Jake Paul. I've got a ton of respect for what Jake Paul's done because he's done it properly. He trains his ass off. He's dedicated his entire life to it. He's not fighting bums. People like to say, okay, yeah, he's choosing easy fights. He's fighting retired fight, mate. You fucking try and do what he's doing. It's not easy. And to have the balls to, even if they are at the end of their career, mate, these guys are serious fight. These are serious fighters that he's fighting. They're not bums in any form. So you got to respect that. So, but like he's like the only one that's doing it properly, in my opinion. Like you see a lot of like what KSI is doing. Don't really back that misfits boxing. It's making a mockery of boxing, to be honest, because you're getting these guys that aren't really training and are talking like they're mad fighters, and then they're being on the zone pay per view. I'm not a fan of that. Like, I think if you're gonna do it properly, do it properly. And Jake Quickenden and this comedian, uh, they're fighting, but I think they announced the fight that, like, I think from the announcement date to when they're fighting is about a month and a bit. Sorry, a year and a bit. So they've actually dedicated a lot of time to taking the fight seriously and to doing it, because MMA you can't do that half on, half off. Like, you got to do it properly. And I think in the future, the way I see it, it only makes sense that if YouTuber boxing is done well, then I'm guessing there will be some form of a YouTube MMA. And I think that is a cool route to go down, because it's a way for, if I continue to build my brand, I can have a big fight on a big card and get the experience of having a big fight on a big card, getting a nice paycheck for it as well, but you're not going through the whole professional route. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah. Like without dedicating your whole existence to it. Yeah, that would be sick.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I would do that. I think like yeah, because I mean, if you try to make it a career, your body's gonna get beat up. Like you're gonna get even if you just probably just became a training
100%.
camp, something's gonna be wrong with you. Like
It's so, mate, it's so hard on your body, man. The wrestling and the jujitsu. Like, people talk about the striking, mate, but it is 1,000,000% the wrestling and the jujitsu that fucks your body more than anything else.
yeah, it's very tough. And like all these guys have lingering injuries all over the place, 24/7. Like
Yeah.
or
I
they're
think that's so funny. Like, Aljo's title fight against um TJ Dillashaw. Everyone was like, "Oh, TJ had a pop shoulder. It was mate. Aljo had a torn bicep, amongst
yeah,
other injuries. Like,
yeah. I mean, people hate Aljo for they just want to
it's crazy, isn't it, that people don't like Aljo? Like, I just don't understand it. I think getting to really come into your guys' environment for 2 weeks, you know, Aljo and Marab and Fravola and all the guys, they're all like proper down to earth geezers that give time to the fans. Like, they like when we were with Aljo for Marab's fight, and we were walking around trying to get to the press conference or the weigh-ins, don't know what it was. There wasn't a single person Aljo turned down for a photo. Like,
oh,
would give everyone his time, even if it was a conversation. Like, and like, these guys, man, it's just. Do you remember when we were watching the fights together, and like you could just hear people like booing when Marab was fighting? It's like, come on, bro,
nah,
come on, bro.
it's
I
like
don't. That's the one thing I don't like about fight fans.
yeah, they just like no fighter should be booed, you know. But it's crazy. I saw a tweet. It was like it's the best sport with the worst fan base. Like there's no respect. The level of respect they deserve is not matched.
No,
And the guys who
no,
get the respect typically it's not usually because they're the best fighter. It's usually because they're the most loved fighter, like Paddy the Baddy
yeah,
or Sean O'Malley. They get respect and like praise, but they're it's the guys who deserve it more aren't getting it. You know,
no.
it's not about
There's a lot of guys that don't get their rep in their fight career,
no.
and a lot of the time as well, it's because maybe necessarily they may not have the loudest mouth, they may not be the star show character, and they might not have the most entertaining style for the fans. But at the end of the day, it's an individual sport. You've got to do whatever you can, whatever is the strong point for you to get a win. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah,
pleasing fans is one thing, but getting a paycheck is another thing.
that's a fact. And like sometimes things just don't go your way, and the fans just turn against you for whatever reason. I mean, like Aljo got kneed in the head, and the fans just turned against him, even though it's not his fault that Peter Yan kneed him in the head. You know?
I was saying this on a video I did recently. It's like, try going in there, fighting 22 odd minutes with a fucking killer and Peter Yan, fighting 22 minutes and then taking one of the worst illegal knees you can probably get, and try acting normal and try acting like you can finish that fight. It's just like not a single person that gave Aljo shit for supposedly faking and acting. Not a single person that said that could take 30 seconds in a fight with Peter Yan, let alone do 22 and then get kneed in the face.
Or take that knee and not get knocked out. I mean,
Yeah.
like most, yeah, like most fans haven't even like hit their head on a cabinet that hard, you know, like let alone take a knee with proper technique. And I mean, yeah, I mean, this is all stuff Aljo's already said, and it's like people are gonna hear whatever they want to hear and believe whatever they want to believe, and we're just gonna keep creating content and pissing everyone off. And I feel like his legacy is gonna be like the plan ruiner, you know, like
Yeah, I feel like he's really taken it in his stride recently after the last fight. It's like you can tell there's more like, okay, do you know what? Fuck you now. Like if you're not backing me out, fuck you. There's
yeah,
more of that energy, I feel like
people
now.
people are starting to get behind him, and he's like, you know, I don't care. Like where were they a year ago? Like he's like they weren't with me then. I don't want him now. Like that type of. So I think he's kind of embracing.
That's also like the Long Island, New York in him as well, though I can imagine. Like that's just the mentality in Long Island, New York, just proper like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, 100%. They're very principled people, you know.
Mate, it was amazing what he did to Henry, and Henry looked really good for the time off that he had.
Yeah,
He looked really good,
Henry looked
really
amazing.
smart, really switched on. Didn't look like he had any ring rust. And Aljo beat him. It was a close fight, but he beat him.
Yeah, that was a great. I mean, I knew he was gonna win. Like I was very confident, but
Of
at
course.
the end with the decision, I was like, the judges have been screwing this up lately. I hope they don't screw it up here, like and rob Aljo. Um, but they got it right. Thank God. You know, I don't know if
Thank God.
I don't know if they get it right in the O'Malley fight. You know, and how much they love O'Malley over there. You know,
How do you think? How do you see the flight? The flight? How do you see the fight playing out between O'Malley and Aljo?
first round submission.
Fuck. You reckon first round out the blocks like that?
Yep, like Corey Sanhagen.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Aljo gets a
That
hold.
would be like a Conor McGregor esque moment. Be like, whoa,
Yeah,
fucking hell.
yeah. That's what I think happens. Yeah, I don't. Maybe second round submission, but I would domination. Only thing, I mean, this is obviously really hard to do, but if Aljo avoids the power, there's like no chance he loses. I mean, obviously,
No,
but Sean has like grappling wise, there's just levels, and
Aljo could pick
it's
him up.
very hard.
I love Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley seems like a great guy. I've always been a fan of him. Met him. He's a sound geezer as well. But A- Aljo's wrestling abilities compared to him, like Aljo could literally pick him up and do whatever the fuck he in a pure wrestling match, mate.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, it wouldn't. I don't
Imagine.
even. Sean couldn't wrestle with Aljo, like
No,
just in a different
no.
class, and like the grappling on the ground too. You know, the jujitsu. Like Aljo's the combo of wrestling and jujitsu is he's world class, and his striking is Aljo's really hard to hit. You know, on the feet. The best strikers in the world have been made to look silly against Aljo. Honestly, like
He's got a really awkward style, isn't he? And his mate, even though he may not have had many like TKOs and knockouts, like his striking's still awkward to deal with because it's not conventional. It's not straight shots. It's all like very weird angles from where he's throwing it. It makes him really dangerous. Like people don't understand how difficult that is to process when someone's in front of you like that. If you've tried to spar with people and people are a bit quirky and they're not as conventional as you've trained with before, it's very difficult to work out the puzzle.
oh, I'm sure. I mean, that's what people say about Aljo. I mean, and also like when O'Malley gets in there and he has to really worry about the takedown, it's going to take away from his striking. You know, he's not going to want to overcommit to something in fear of getting taken down. Because if he gets taken down, when he gets taken down, he's going to be drowned. That's what I truly believe. I've seen Aljo do it to much better grapplers than O'Malley, so and bigger guys than O'Malley. So I don't think he stands a chance. I think it's going to be the defining fight in Aljo's career in terms of popularity, and I think it's you know, it's gonna put him in a
It's gonna make him
spotlight
blow.
before he takes over 145. So that's how I see it going.
Mate, there's something swimming in the waters over at Longo Serra, man. I mean, Naz, Frivola, got your boy Dennis as well. That's coming up soon.
Don't forget about
N-
Dennis.
no, of course.
Yeah,
You got Marab, Aljo, and the confidence that has been built over the success over the last year or two. Again, like you can just see it from a mile off. Ray Longo, Matt Serra, both great coaches. Mate, I watched. I didn't finish it, but I watched half of the Ray Longo podcast with Aljo. Ray Longo, what a fucking G he is. Like he is just
oh, he's the best.
such a cool guy, so smart, so humble, very just calm and well, I mean, from the sounds of it, he's calm and composed, but he wasn't like that back in the day. But like from the experience that I had from meeting him, he just seems like a really good guy. Like he just like the team in Long Island, man. Like I would not be surprised if, give it another year or two, you're looking at there's at least 2 or 3 more UFC champions that have come out from there. I really believe that.
Yeah, like I got my work cut out for me. I think with Nas and
Yeah.
um, definitely got
But it's
some.
amazing, bro, because like even though you're not fighting, like you are literally still a whole part of the journey. Like you're still a part of the story, even though you're telling their story. You're still a part of the story. It's amazing.
I suppose. I mean, nah. I wouldn't. It's all them, but I think it's cool that I get to be right there with them, and like especially
Yeah,
Dennis.
but
Like
you
Dennis,
you
I'm filming Dennis before. I'm already filmed. I already got like many vlogs with Dennis. Like we just filmed a really cool one right before I left New York a few days ago.
he seems like a cool guy as well. I've never met Dennis, but he seems like a geezer as
I
well.
think yeah. Once he gets his opportunity on the big stage, he's gonna take over, and like he's cool because I'll get to document his whole career. So that's and that footage is priceless. Like it's not like we're gonna reenact it. We have it. We have the footage.
No,
So yeah, I'm very excited. Just stuff like that. Just filming with all those guys. Is Nas is a freaking amazing fighter. Like he's like one of
mate,
the best to
amazing.
watch,
That mate,
and he's such
wow.
a G in real
Second
life.
fight.
You know?
Oh, I know, mate. Mate, second fight in the UFC, you're fighting Terrence McKinney as well. That is like, ooh,
Oh,
as a fight fan, like that is like, wow, those are the fights you want to see. And to take that fight in your second fight, it just shows everything that Naz is about. Like, no easy fights. Let's fucking go, motherfucker.
and he's
I'm taking you out.
he's extremely confident. So I'm excited.
And as well, like yeah, I'm with Naz as well. Is he the only Azerbaijani fighter in the UFC?
I think there's some others.
Yeah.
I think
Or is it a handful at least?
Rafael.
Oh, Fiziev.
Yeah, Fiziev is
Yeah,
Azeri.
yeah.
Um, there might be another one, but yeah,
Well, I mean, like when you have such a big country as well like that, and you're a handful of athletes that are pushing towards having a successful career, I mean, that makes it even bigger. I mean, he'll be a fucking huge star in. I mean, I'm sure he's got a very big fan base already, but like I said, all these guys, it's all just the recipe for success for everyone. And like I said, when you're drilling with killers every day, twice a day in the gym, there's no wonder why everyone's doing so well because everyone's pushing each other. And once he gets a win, and then he gets a win, now he's on 2 wins. Shit, he's on 3 wins. Shit, he's getting to the UFC now. Like it's just the momentum just rolls with it, man. It's amazing to see.
yeah, it is crazy because the guys coming up too, like they're studs, and the guys who are in their prime now, they're champions and were number one contenders, and Al fought for the title. So like,
Mate, Al, oh, I forgot about Al, by the way. Mate, he gave Khabib such a good fight, man. 5 rounds with people say one of the greatest of all times. Had him hurt a few times. I don't was Al even ranked? I don't even think he was a ranked fighter
no, he
at that
was
time that he
like
took the fight.
top 15.
Wa- Was it was he in the top 15 or was he just outside the top 15?
I think he was. No, he was top 15. Yeah,
Top 15. Yeah, because I remember saying that like because I think the commission weren't going to officially make it, but Dana was like, mate, if he wins the fight, he's the champion. But that was crazy, like because he would have been there for the whole Dolly situation with Connor.
yeah, he was there.
Crazy time.
Built the biggest fight like ever that weekend. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, God, I'm guessing you've watched the first episode of The Ultimate Fighter.
I have, yeah. I'm not.
The second episode's out tonight, isn't it?
Oh, Ultimate Fighter? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
tonight, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Connor documentary.
Yeah, you weren't really a big fan of it, were you?
I think it's cool, like, but like, I watched it and I learned how I would have done it differently. Like I have my
Yeah.
opinions. So when I make the Aljo documentary, I'm gonna do it, you know, differently, you know?
I think as a McGregor fan, there wasn't really anything new, was there?
No.
Like there wasn't any more insight into, like, it was just kind of videos with all context played over, like we were saying. Like there wasn't, like, I feel like with Notorious, that was a much more raw version of Connor, and you got to see him and his character a lot more.
Yeah, and yeah.
Whereas you didn't really get to see that with McGregor Forever, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean,
You still, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was still some cool behind the scenes stuff that you
definitely,
didn't see.
definitely. But like I would have liked to see like everything that like explained
Mm,
his side of the story, you know? I felt like we got glimpses, but then they just went back to showing stuff they already like that everyone's already seen. You know what I'm saying? So then that's like that part kind of made me yawn, but um there was cool.
I don't think he was happy either. He was saying in a few interviews that because he didn't really have a lot of creative control over it. I
Right.
don't think so. I think he was also a bit disappointed in some of the stuff because, mate, they've definitely got shitloads more footage that they could have used. They made what, like 50-minute episodes, 4 of them over the span of what, like a 4 or 5 year. You could definitely have gotten more out of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bro.
Like they made that Notorious film. Essentially, it was the main part of that Notorious film was the Mendez fight, the Aldo fight, and the Diaz fight. That was only
Where
really
like you saw
a
like
year and a half.
Hunter coming in and you saw that was
Yeah,
we never saw that before. That stuff I didn't feel like there was much of. Like I thought it was cool seeing him with his family and like seeing him do the community service. That was really good.
yeah,
Um, but like like the scenes where it was like him at the press conference, like I don't need to see that, you know, or like what I wish they would have shown was like like Connor like in the first Poirier fight he was very nice, and then in the second one he was very mean in the build up. So I would have loved to see like him talking about why. Like there was that whole
yeah,
like, charity thing, right? I would have loved to see footage where he's like ranting about his side of the story and like revealing that to the world, but we didn't get any of that. We just saw the trend, like we just saw the next,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I mean, that
Do you think he beats Chandler?
yeah. I mean,
I hope so.
I think he can. I hope. I mean, I don't know. If either guy wins, it's big for the sport. I mean, obviously, if Connor wins,
Yeah,
he can like get a title shot probably, and
definitely. Oh, mate, if he wins that fight, he's 100% getting a title shot. I was going back and forth with the idea as well. Like as an English person, I want to see like Leon Edwards against McGregor in a stadium show in the UK would be insane.
I feel like yeah, that would be cool. I mean, they're saying
Insane.
that Colby's saying he would give Connor a title shot.
Well, that was the other thing. That's like, as much as I love Leon, and as much as I would want to see that fight, I don't think Colby will beat Leon. But if he were to beat Leon, I do think the Colby McGregor fight would be a much bigger fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude,
That would be probably more entertaining to
trash talk
watch.
would be insane. That would be a huge fight.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool to see, and I think it's actually probably a pretty interesting fight. I mean, I would lean towards Colby, but you
Just
know,
for the wrestling and the pace. But mate, Colby's striking. McGregor just boom.
yeah,
Do you know what it is as well? I just know. I feel like because McGregor's taken this time out, he's clearly gone to do. I mean, mate, he snapped his leg in half. Like, if you need to leave the testing pool to get like your leg healed up properly with stuff that isn't on USADA, I can understand it. I'm sure he probably also did a few other things, but like if you had to heal your leg and that was the reason for it, then I can respect it. So the one thing I just don't want to see now is that, say he comes back and he beats Chandler. everyone's like, "Oh well, he was finished before he left the USADA, and now he's come back and he's won by knockouts." So it's like, "Oh, he's just been juicing. That's the only reason why." That's the one thing that I don't want to see, and I can unfortunately see that being the route that a lot of people take.
Yeah, I mean it could be. I think I mean, he's got to be in USADA and pass 2 drug tests in 6 months. So,
Yeah,
I mean, how? I mean, he's on stuff now. It seems, but who knows? Like,
who knows? I think that's the only slight confidence that I have going into this fight is that I'm sure Michael Chandler's probably been burning himself out a little bit and probably overtraining. Whereas you can see McGregor's kind of, if from my perspective, from what I see, is that he's probably not been training as hard because he knows that he's kind of got 6 months to prepare, and that might be a good thing, that might be a bad thing. That's just the way that I can rationalize it in my head.
yeah, I don't know. I think I heard Chandler say like he's not like training. He's like staying in shape, but he's not like in a typical training camp. Like he's like I think you heard him say he's like
Yeah.
195 right now or something. So it's not like he's like going super hard. He's eating. I'm sure he's having some drinks with his wife. So
Oh mate, as McGregor said, red panty night.
it's gonna be
It is red panty
it'd
night.
be good for a good
Oh,
night for Chandler. That's for sure.
oh mate, Chandler be like this after the fight. Let's buy a new house, baby.
Yeah, facts.
Right, Jake Fine, the main man of the YouTube MMA game. I appreciate the chat, brother. It's been good to talk to you. This is the longest podcast I've done in a while as well, by the way.
Yeah, we're almost at an hour and a half. That's good.
Yeah, it's a good podcast though, filled with a lot of good content, a lot of different topics for people to enjoy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
As always, brother. And I'm sure in the near future, we'll be making more content in person together.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
All right, bro.
Right. If you want to follow Jake, make sure you go to @JakeFineMedia on Instagram. Obviously, follow the Weekly Scraps on YouTube. Follow Aljamain Sterling's channel as well. Is it Funkmaster MMA? Is that
Yeah,
his?
yeah. And then
Yeah,
Jake Fine Media on TikTok as well.
Jake Fine Media as well. And obviously, like we mentioned before, he's working with all the other guys at Serra Longo in Long Island. So if you want to give them a watch, they've all got really interesting stories. They've all got content behind them as well. Matt Favola, Naz, Dennis, Marab, many more as well. Trust me, Jake is the guy for all of that. So go check him out, give him a follow, watch his stuff, and we'll see you soon with the next podcast. Peace.